We're the Avengers. We can bust arms dealers all the live long day, but that up there, that's the end game. How are you guys planning on beating that?
Together.
Welcome, everybody, to the April episode of the Monthly Movie Dispatch. This is Dick Moffat. I'm here with Derek Deal.
Hey.
And Brandon Bowlby.
Hey, guys.
So this episode, we're going to be going over the movies that we saw in the month of April. We're doing short reviews on some of the smaller movies, and then doing feature reviews for three of our biggest ones, including Avengers: Infinity War. Guys, I'm so excited about talking about Avengers. We saw it this last week, and I wish that we were just getting into it right now.
Yeah, I just walked out of the theater like an hour ago from seeing it.
Last week, we put out a short episode going over our summer movie wager. So that's going to be going on right now. You guys can go and check out our feed and listen to that one. But the first thing on our podcast is going to be our shorts. Brand, do you want to kick us off with Ready Player One?
Maybe. I didn't really like this movie all that much. I thought it was one of Steven Spielberg's worst films. Other than maybe some like really spectacular, well done CGI that was pretty above a lot of the competition that's going out right now. I thought almost nothing came together, and the characters and the relationships basically sucked, and I did not enjoy this film.
Jeez. So mean. I thought it was actually, it's not like a great movie. I definitely had a lot of fun. I thought like a lot of the ideas and concepts that they wanted to play with, I thought that they actually did pretty well. I thought they got like gamer culture and how it would evolve in this kind of world. I thought that worked really well and seemed realistic to me. Yeah, I thought it was just kind of it was just a fun action movie. I don't think it really had a lot of depth, which was totally fine. Yeah. Wasn't really expecting it to. But I thought a lot of the references weren't as in your face as they looked in the trailer. I thought they actually worked pretty well. And especially that first third of the movie, I thought flowed really well. And the first big action set piece was pretty exhilarating.
I think the funness really came out because of Steven Spielberg's pace and how well he can do that in almost all his films. Right, I think that was a strong point.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think like the big car chase in the beginning kind of sold me on the rest of the movie. It like bought me into it, and so I was pretty on board for everything. Whether or not it was like everything came together perfectly well, I don't think it did, but all the set pieces I actually really enjoyed quite a bit, and was pleasantly surprised on how well they were done and how well they worked in the story.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Ready Player One was pretty fun. Pretty much that was it for me. I thought it was kind of just a pretty fun movie. I was pretty into it the whole time, but I didn't really think too much about, like, I feel like there's probably a lot of problems with it, but I kind of bought into the movie and just had a great time watching it. But I didn't think the movie really wanted you to think too much into it. It kind of just, to me, just like, it was a fun blockbuster movie. That was Ready Player One. That will be out on DVD in probably a month or two. Derek, you saw a movie called Blockers. What were your thoughts on that one?
It was pretty good. Okay, so it's like a raunchy rated R comedy, and stars John Cena and Leslie Mann and Ike Barinholtz. It's pretty much they're trying to stop their children from having sex on prom night. I don't really know how they did it. Like when I watched the trailer for that movie, it's almost a little cringy to me. But the movie, it's actually pretty good. They work that story very well. They create a pretty good cast where the children actually almost outshine like the big movie stars in the movie. They actually have a lot of really funny moments and a lot of aspects that come into consideration when girls reach that age and how boys interact with them, how parents, and it's just like it's kind of like a little minefield. And I think they did a really good job at figuring out how to work that into a story that doesn't feel like sexist or anything like that. I don't know, they pulled it off. Just everything flows really well, and it's pretty damn funny. So
Yeah, I'm shocked that people are liking this movie. Like you said, that trailer was so super cringy, but
Yeah.
all around, this has been getting like good word of mouth. I'll probably rent this when it comes out later.
yeah.
It's pretty cool seeing John Cena kind of making it.
Yeah, and he plays kind of a different character too. Like he's still like physically John Cena, but mentally in the movie he's like just a very different kind of person than you'd expect.
Right, and just his body type, he can't not be John Cena in a movie.
Right. Yeah.
That was Blockers. That should still be in theaters right now. Cool. Well, I saw a movie on Netflix that I want to tell you guys about. It was called The Ritual. So basically, it was about these friends who they do like a yearly trip together, and this time they decided to go into the woods. Not into the woods. They decided to go on this big epic hike, and then they kind of decide to take a shortcut through these woods. And it's a pretty good movie. I see a lot of people getting like different opinions on it, and I'm kind of in the middle. I think that it could be a really effective scare. Like there's definitely some really good tension building and some really creative elements that you don't always see in horror movies or see in movies in general. But for me, it kind of just it didn't really fully hit as hard as I felt like it was trying to. So but it was, it's on Netflix. It's a pretty decent horror movie if you like that kind of thing.
Cool.
That movie was The Ritual. It's available right now on Netflix. Brandon, you saw a movie that you wanted to tell us about?
Yes, I saw You Were Never Really Here a couple weeks ago. This is a film directed by Lynn Ramsey. I think it's finally getting its more wide release in other states and cities. I was so ecstatic about this movie. It is like absolutely going to be one of my favorite movies of the year. It is so brilliant and so subtle. Like even the whole night I was like trying to put the pieces together in my head, and I was like texting my friend like what I was coming up with. And like this movie doesn't hold your hand, and it's the perfect movie to like go and see again and keep thinking about. It's pretty brutal and violent and deals with some really heavy subject matter, and also is pretty psychological as well. But I can't wait for you guys to see this, and it's amazing.
Yeah, that's great. I definitely want to see it. I just haven't. It came to Seattle quite a bit later than it did New York City, I think, and I think it's only been here for about a week, so just haven't had a chance. That was You Will Never Really Hear. It's in theaters now. Derek, what was the next movie you want to talk about?
Yeah, I saw this movie called I Kill Giants. I don't even know how I came across it. It was probably a couple months ago I found this trailer, and it just looked really interesting. It kind of, after watching it, it's nothing like it, but it kind of just made me think of Colossus. It's just like, had like this strange story about normal people, but there's like these big monsters and stuff. And so I decided to check it out, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was really great. It's really good at reminding adults how crazy it is that children have to like live in the same world as us, like go through a lot of the same crazy, like terrifying things that adults have to, but they don't have all the tools to deal with it like adults should, That's what I really got out of it. And I thought it was a really great movie. Recommend it to everyone. I don't think it's coming out in theaters from what I understand, but you can watch it online on YouTube or Vudu and all the streaming services. So
It sounds really interesting. I'm gonna have to go check that out. That movie is I Kill Giants, and it's available to rent on Vudu and YouTube and other online places. Derek, you had another movie you saw in theaters.
yeah, this is just like a generic rom-com, honestly. I Feel Pretty is Amy Schumer's newest movie. It was totally fine. I don't know. I don't really have any opinion. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Amy Schumer's like kind of not that funny to me anymore. But I think that the movie was decently funny, and some of the supporting actors were actually really great in it. But that's about.
So it was no train wreck 2.0?
No, not at all.
So I almost saw this movie because like Shannon thought the trailer was really funny.
Yeah.
Like so, we were like thinking about going. I mean, I feel like either the concept's gonna hit for you and you're gonna find it hilarious, or maybe you won't.
Right. The concept, for the record, actually works really well. It's just overall, in general, like, I don't know how funny it is, but it's like a feel-good rom-com, you know?
That was I Feel Pretty. It should still be in theaters right now. Well, those are short reviews, and now we're going to get into the 3 movies that each of us has seen. The first one is Wes Anderson's new film, Isle of Dogs. The brief plot description is set in Japan. Isle of Dogs follows a boy's Aussie in search for his lost dog. Real quick, before we get into Isle of Dogs, I just wanted to try something with you guys. Wes Anderson's, I think I can speak freely and say that all 3 of us love Wes Anderson movies.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go around and say which one is your favorite. So, like, Derek, what's your favorite Wes Anderson movie?
Royal Tenenbaums.
And Brandon, what about you?
Life Aquatic.
Okay. See, I'd go with the Royal Tenenbaums as well, but I personally feel like everyone has a different favorite Wes Anderson movie. Like my friend Nick, his favorite is Bottle Rocket.
No.
And,
Is it really?
Another one of my college roommates had like his wedding like themed based on Moonrise Kingdom, and like a lot of you,
that's cool.
A lot of you guys like that new one, Grand Budapest Hotel.
There's a lot of Rushmore fans out there too.
Grand Budapest Hotel is my favorite one to recommend people. I feel like it's the easiest entry into Wes Anderson because it's like totally just nonstop, like constantly just his style, like all over the place. But it's also like probably the silliest and funniest, I feel personally. And so it's like the easiest to just jump into and just like casually watch. That's why I love recommending that movie all the time.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like Wes Anderson's a guy who each of his movies is like specifically so much his style. Like Wes Anderson can't escape being a Wes Anderson movie. But in that, there's usually enough difference of a plot or something fun about it that makes it unique. I find that everyone kind of has their own flavor of Wes Anderson.
Right.
So that being said, like, where does Isle of Dogs stick in there? Like, does it have something that's special? Brandon, what do you think?
I would put Isle of Dogs mid to slightly lower in his overall career, which is still great because I love pretty much every single one of his movies. Maybe slightly besides Bottle Rocket, just because it's his kind of first and most amateur. But even Isle of Dogs was really fun and really special. I think he really is riding off of his new like style that he got in Grand Budapest Hotel with just nonstop like adventure and just nonstop like the story just keeps rolling forward at every moment. I think this is like maybe one of his most complex movies as far as how many characters there are and how many different things are happening and like all the little adventures everyone is constantly going on. It just is like a very chaotic, style-heavy film for Wes Anderson, similar to his last one. And that's good and bad. I think it makes it really fun and funny, but I think he kind of lost some of the more like poetic stuff that is in some of his better films. It didn't really like pause and breathe and kind of show you some more beautiful moments. But overall, just like Wes Anderson always does, it's a great and fun and funny film.
Yeah, I totally see what you mean with the chaotic stuff. They did this thing that I thought that was really creative. They did a lot of like quick flashbacks to like build up the mythology of the kind of unique world that they were in. You know what I'm talking about? They would be like, oh, and this is something that happened years and years ago, and then kind of go into that, tell a quick story, and then jump back into what our characters are doing. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like, Brandon, exactly what you said is almost exactly what I was thinking. Like, I put that movie right in the same place, kind of mid to lower tier. I think it moves really well. Like, he has this down to a science. He doesn't make very many mistakes anymore. But just overall, I think it wasn't quite as fun as some of his other movies. And like you said, it probably wasn't as touching or sentimental as a lot of his earlier movies. When we talk back to like Royal Tenenbaums and Life Aquatic and compared to his newer style of Grand Budapest and Isle of Dogs, I think, yeah, that slower pace kind of lends itself to having the more emotional moments kind of hang, and they have just a different effect on you, I think. And I think this movie maybe lacks some of that, but overall I definitely enjoy it a lot. It's just not my favorite of his films. Still really technically incredible though, that's for sure.
Well, what about the animation, guys? I mean, that was like that was the most standout thing for me. I thought the animation was very impressive.
Incredible. I'm already thinking like ahead at the Oscars. Like, is a Wes Anderson film finally going to win, or is Pixar Incredibles 2 just going to steal it back again?
Or Hotel Transylvania 3.
I don't know about like the Oscars. It's just that's so far out. Like, will people remember it by then for awards consideration kind of thing? But I don't know. I saw some sort of stat that was about how like a minute of film for that movie would take them like, a week or something. Like just how long that process is. Just I don't know. It's very impressive.
So, yeah, I feel like the ending of Isle of Dogs was a little bit rushed, especially with the stuff that was going on off island, with how fast-paced this movie is. I didn't necessarily think they developed the politics very clearly and very well, and kind of when everything was colliding at the climax, it moved by a little bit too quickly for me. And I wished the movie was already kind of a little long for an animated movie, but I do wish they had given that ending a little bit slower of a pace and more time to actually play out.
Totally. Overall, I thought it was pretty good though. Like, I think I gave it like 4 stars on Letterboxd just because I felt like it was a good ride. It was a good like journey.
Our expectations are so high, it's almost unfair.
I don't know. I'd recommend this movie to like people who like animation. If you're not gonna normally see an animated movie, I might not say you have to go out of the way for this one, but if you like animation, you should watch this movie.
Shout out to the Oracle Pug.
So cute. So cute. All right.
That was Isle of Dogs. That should be in theaters or coming out on DVD within the month or two. Okay, so let's get into our next movie. A movie that made a buttload of money, a horror film. A Quiet Place was released on the 6th of April, early April, and it pretty much made money throughout. It was directed by John Krasinski. The short plot summary: a family is forced to live in silence while hiding from creatures that hunt by sound. Derek, do you want to give us a brief rundown of your thoughts on this movie?
Sure. Yeah, I thought it was great. It's cool to see that like this horror renaissance we've had these last couple of years is just still going. I think this is just the new age of horror where we're just going to have like just the standard has been raised as of late, where it feels like every big horror movie that comes out just is good right now. Not every big movie. I know we had like Truth or Dare and stuff like that, but it's really cool to see like these big concept movies making a lot of money and being pretty well made, overall. But as this movie goes, I think the concept itself, it's so big. It's such a cool idea that it does a lot of the heavy lifting for it. Like having a world that's not without sound, but a world that they're not allowed to make sound is just fascinating. And like the design of the houses and everything is just kind of like that concept just lends itself to so much world building. So outside of that, I think that once you start stepping away from the big concept, I think the movie has some issues. I think that concept, like, that's why you go to see the movie, is like this, it's just such a cool and unique thing. But some of the actual plot points, I think, maybe fall a little short at times. But overall, I think it was really effective. It was pretty damn scary and really exciting. Like from the get go, that opening scene, like I haven't been that shocked in movie theaters in the theater in a really long time. I haven't actually had that moment where I put my hands to my mouth and looked around at the people around me to see how they were reacting. But that happened in this movie in the first 5 minutes, and from there it was just a really fun ride all the way to the end.
Yeah, that opening scene is something else. I feel like that opening scene set the tone of like expectation for the theater. You know, like people kind of sit down and they're shuffling around or eating popcorn, and then the first scene is so good and so shocking that it's kind of like you have to be quiet for this movie.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. It totally like just shuts up the theater, and it's just dead silent after that, on screen and off screen.
Right. Because I know like that was honestly something I was nervous about, because I saw it on like a Friday night, like a few weeks after it already come out, so it wasn't like a film crowd. It was like, you know, a like kind of kids not doing anything, going to see a PG-13 movie kind of crowd, and
Right.
I was like, oh man, are people going to be like, you know, are kids going to be talking and ruining this for me? And they kind of like, you know, people weren't quiet the first, like I don't think anyone was necessarily talking, but it was like, you know, a lot of noise, kind of like murmuring, and then that opening scene happened, and it was pretty like no one moved the rest of the movie,
Right.
and the tension in that movie was so good, and yeah, I think that opening scene really set that up.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, what about you? What are your thoughts on A Quiet Place?
I think the tension in this film is its strongest point for sure. I think this movie has like one of the best 15-minute runs in like horror films in a long time. The midpoint through the movie, the moment the things start moving, it is just like you can't breathe. You have your hands over your mouth and you feel your heart pounding for 15, 20 minutes straight. Like that is so hard to do and so incredible. I also had a ton of problems with this movie, and me and you, Nick, we talked about it earlier last week, and it actually kind of helped because one of my main problems was like with that opening, I didn't notice that the girl gave her brother the toy. And so that really like ruined pretty much all the emotional moments for the rest of the film because they didn't make any sense to
no.
me. I was like, why is he like the meanest dad who can't simply say I love you to his daughter? Like, I don't understand what's happening here. And I like blamed the movie so hard the entire time. And I still think the ending probably is too much regardless of that and super cheesy for some of those last moments when that like kind of culminates. But I think it did ruin some of the movie for me, not getting the intro.
That's kind of funny. I'm sorry. Like, unfortunate, but yeah. I mean, I feel like that happens sometimes with me for movies too. You just kind of
You
might miss
blink at the
something.
wrong time.
Yeah. I don't know how long your blinks are, but you know, yeah, things happen. Yeah, I really liked this movie. I bought into it. You know, the concept was big enough for me to just kind of accept that they were in a dire situation from the get-go. And I just thought the tension was so effective, and like this movie used a lot of jump scares. Not a lot, but there definitely were jump scares, but I thought they were really like some of the best in years. Usually I'm kind of like, you know, it's a cheap move that horror movies can use, but because the tension was already there, the way they used them really worked. And my problem with the movie wasn't even like in the details of the concept falling apart. It was more in that like it was just not a subtle movie in the slightest. You know, they definitely did things that were like really, whether like something's like written on the wall or they really just hammer in that something's going to happen or is happening. They were very like obvious with almost everything that they did in that movie, which like was fine because it set the tone of that's how the movie was. And it was a horror movie, it's a PG-13 horror movie, and I like I'm telling you, I loved it. I was bought into it, but it didn't reach like that next level of like, you know, that upper echelon of like artistic, you know, horror for me, because it just kind of it was just pretty obvious in some parts.
Yeah, I wonder like how much of that comes from them not fully believing that this movie was going to work just as a concept. Like being a movie where they already know, like, okay, no one's going to speak in this movie. Like, you can't have words in this movie. So, how are we going to, like, get across certain things? And I think, like, I know specifically, like, writing on the wall was very, like, in your face. Like, it's one of the most unsettled things about the movie. And I think, like, maybe they underestimate the audience that, like, the things they had written on the wall were things that were inherently already in our heads. So, like, and we know that obviously it's in all of their heads. So there's no reason that they really need to have, like, big, bold, like, proclamations and questions, like, written, like, those kind of things. I think, like, could have been taken completely out of the movie. It wouldn't have, it would have benefited them a lot. It didn't, they weren't necessary at all. And it wasn't even just, like, heavy-handed. I think, like, it just wasn't necessary. A lot of those things, like, we can come to those conclusions ourselves, and we ask those questions inherently based off just the whole concept of the movie. I do think, Brandon, like what you were saying about that, there's a moment in the movie that's very clear when things really start going and it becomes like the super tense situation. But part of me thinks that section should have been like the climax of the whole movie, like the big finale, because it kind of, without getting too far into spoilers, but it kind of feels like their whole world revolved around what happened. Like everything about their farm and how they plan out their days and just everything revolved around this set piece that was going to happen eventually in the movie.
Right.
And then it happens, but we're only halfway through the movie, so then it gets over. And like I kind of wish that they just had it, just like put the pedal to the metal all the way to the end of the film. So maybe move that section back.
Yeah, they kind of took a different direction. I'm with you, Derek. Like I think that they could have had what happened in the movie go to the ending of the movie, but instead they kind of took a turn, and that thing wasn't the main part of the movie. They took a turn and had them kind of go in a different direction to the end of the movie. And I'm with you. Like I don't know if it needed to be. It didn't need to be the ending that they ended up with. It might have been stronger if they. I feel like I'm speaking in code talking about this, but I think they could have changed some things and made the ending a little stronger. I could agree to that.
Mm-hmm. And one of my biggest problems with the film was also, for me, the world building. I know a lot of horror movies, you got to give so much benefit of the doubt for making the monster or the demon make sense. But with the concept of this movie using sci-fi, I was questioning way too many things and getting inside my head to try to make sense of this world. And I don't think they also gave enough time in the middle for them to develop like all the rules and how survival worked, what you would actually do as a family in that situation. And it's maybe a little unfair to a small budget horror movie like this, but with the concept that it gave me, I was overthinking everything.
Well, yeah, yeah. I feel like I could say more, but I'm like about to go into spoilers. Like if I start
Yeah.
like talking about like ideas of what they could have done differently to make it better, it'd be like talking about spoilers. So,
Overall, it's definitely worth. Yeah, it's definitely scary. It's definitely worth seeing, and it's a pretty big movie this year. So I think
It's a pretty big accomplishment as well.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Like if you're into horror, you should definitely watch this movie. And if you're like into good movies, you should probably watch it too. But it's a big it's a big surprise for everybody this year. It mostly works. Just there's some big picture things that we kind of can't help but see. So anyway, that was A Quiet Place. It should still be in theaters right now. So for the final review of this episode, we're going to be talking about Avengers Infinity War. Just to read the brief plot summary, the Avengers and their allies must be willing to sacrifice all in an attempt to defeat the powerful Thanos before his blitz of devastation and ruin puts an end to the universe. This is the new Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. It's the 19th in the series. Pretty much this is the culmination of everything that they've been doing for the last 10 years. 10 years. Real quick, just in case are wondering, this movie has pretty much everybody in it. It's got Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Captain America, Black Widow, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, War Machine, Black Panther, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Falcon, Bucky Barnes, Loki, Guardians of the Galaxy, Groot, Rocket, all those guys. And it's got Josh Brolin as Thanos. So, Avengers Infinity War. Derek, do you want to kick us off? What are your general thoughts? How does this movie fit into the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I loved the movie. I think it was very different than I thought it was going to be. It's kind of hard to it's hard for me to compare it to the other Marvel movies because it's just its own thing. It's so different than anything they've done before. And it's so big. I can't even think of another movie just in general to compare it to. To have so many intersecting stories all converge into one story at the same time and have it work as well as it did. It's something else. I think it's one of their better movies. I don't necessarily think it's their best movie, but at the same time, like I said, it's kind of hard for me to really compare. What even qualifies as their best? This is their boldest movie. It's their biggest movie.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
How does it compare to the other Avengers movies? What you would consider an Avenger movie. How does it compare to those ones? Do you think it's the best Avengers movie?
I'm not counting Civil War an Avengers movie. I think that it is easily my favorite Avengers movie.
Okay. I kind of consider Captain America. I would consider it an Avengers movie, but in my head, they're kind of similar. I kind of do a quote, Avengers movie. In
right.
quotes, Captain America: Civil War is an Avengers movie, and I would definitely put Captain America in front of it.
But, for me, Civil War is almost it's as perfect of a Marvel movie as they've made in my book. And I think that just goes from everything. I think they have a really tight plot. It's not a big, giant plot in Civil War. It's actually fairly simple. It's it's just a battle of ideologies. And I think what makes Civil War work is that it has all these really great set pieces that are executed to perfection. And they're very memorable action scenes. And it's the same thing with Winter Soldier. I think the Russos just have an ability to make scenes like that are memorable. They're the kind of scenes that I remember when I compare it to The Matrix. There's set pieces in The Matrix that I watch on YouTube all the time because they're so cool. It's the same thing with Winter Soldier and Civil War. I don't think Infinity War really has that.
Very good point.
But I also don't think it needs that. It's something different. It shouldn't have that. So I can't really hold that against it. So that's why it's so hard for me to compare. I don't really know. What it does have is bigger, more important, and edgier, and probably just as well executed. It's just so different. I don't know.
So, this movie is also directed by the same people that did Winter Soldier and Civil War, the Russo brothers. That's a really good point about the set pieces. So, Brandon, what are your general thoughts about these movies?
So I thought Infinity War was better than I expected it to be. And I'm a big fan of the Russos and the second and third Captain America movies and what they did with that. I think those are some of the better Marvel movies they have. I don't necessarily know if this beats it, but it is so ambitious. And for the most part, they do a good enough job holding this insane film together that should never exist. And it's super impressive. And I was even questioning if they could pull it off. And I think for the most part, they did. And I just got out of this movie 2 hours ago. It's still super fresh in my head. And I had a pretty great time watching it.
Well, great. Guys, I love the MCU. This movie left me feeling kind of cold, though. I'm still trying to process these feelings. I don't know how much I enjoyed it, and I think part of that is, I think part of that is purposeful. Like, this is definitely like the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel movies. Like, it is clearly like it's dark. You know, it was a lot darker than I could have really ever expected. And we're not going to go into spoilers on it, but we are going to go into spoilers on it, but later on we're going to go into that. But right now, I was kind of, on some level, I was kind of bummed out on what you were talking about earlier, that I did feel like they nailed how everyone fit into the world and how everyone interacted with each other, but there wasn't, just because of how many people they had, they didn't have as much time, and it just felt like almost everything went a little too quick for me. Like, there was some good quibs, there's some good interaction, but I feel like there weren't really any huge memorable moments for most of the characters. Like, I can think of one big moment for Iron Man, but almost everyone else, I'm kind of like, what was like their really awesome moment that we got to like really fully enjoy? It just kind of felt like everything just kind of, skimmed the surface and just went really quick. And I feel bad about it because I really love these movies, but did you experience that at all, or am I just like hating on it right now?
I think that's its biggest problem. Derek brought up the set pieces. I think that kind of relates to this. I don't know if you're talking about characters or their abilities in the action, but to me, I really wanted more specificity in their action scenes. For the most part, it was a big jumbled mess of everybody taking turns swinging as hard as they could. I didn't necessarily see individual people use their powers like in smart or intelligent ways that really like made you kind of gasp. Or, there was no Quicksilver scene for almost anybody the entire movie. Like, no one got their moment to shine. They like kind of barely did that with, or a more relatable, like Guardians 2 with like a Yondu action scene with his dart that just like is almost so creative, it's beautiful. They maybe kind of gave that to Groot for a split second towards the end with Iron Man, but I wish they had like honed in on their abilities a little bit more and gave each person something like either in slow motion or significant or impactful that they were able to do with it. Kind of like telling you why they were there, why they were part of this team.
I think that's exactly what I'm talking about, except like kind of both. You said, like, I don't know if you're talking about characters or abilities, so I'm kind of talking about both. Like, Derek, I'm with you. I think Civil War is the best Marvel has put out so far because they balanced like each character. It was a smaller story, but it was very emotional. Like, I could name almost every character in that movie, and there's either like a really great character moment or like a really cool power moment. There's Ant-Man and his giant man moment. And then there's like also like Black Widow when she like makes a big character moment in that movie. Like Infinity War, there's just a lot of like interaction and then punching and stuff. Nothing really, really exciting or eventful from our characters.
I disagree, but I'll have to touch on it in the spoiler section. But I will say something that I don't think is really a spoiler. They've been kind of advertising it as such in interviews and stuff. I think a big part of why we don't see a lot of those moments is because, I mean, maybe you guys got a different vibe, but Thanos is very much the main character of this movie. We spend the majority of the movie with Thanos, and therefore I think there's a lot less opportunities for these other characters to have these big set pieces and these big moments. Like, it kind of just makes sense and kind of works that those moments aren't here. And I think that's all very intentional, and what you're feeling is also very intentional, I think it is.
So, totally. And like, that's a really good point, Derek. Like, this was definitely Thanos' movie. And for the record, like, I'm definitely going to see this again, and I hope that I like it more the second time. I wrote that in my review for this movie, is that this is pure Thanos. Like, he's so much more interesting and complicated than I really could have imagined. And it's like, it's in a different way than Killmonger from Black Panther, where like, you see where he's coming from and you're like pretty much with him. You might not be with Thanos at all in this movie, but
you're forced to be with him the whole time. Like,
there's a real like pride and sadness in what he's doing and what his goal is, and you can really feel it. Josh Brolin like really, he's got all the purple and colorful makeup on, but underneath he's really like carrying a lot in that role.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's get into spoilers.
Okay, we're gonna get into spoilers now. Spoilers. Don't listen any further, because there's a lot of things that happen. So
the success of this movie depends on you not having anything spoiled, even the smallest detail.
And Thanos will come and kill you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have an intro spoiler question. What was Thanos's kill 50% of the population goal? As much as I liked Thanos, I feel like I just missed one explanation there.
Like his reasoning?
About what he thought would improve with half of the universe gone.
I think his whole thing was that there's a finite amount of energy and space or whatever in the universe. And so like people just keep spreading and things just keep getting bigger and bigger, and his goal is that, hey, if I just cut it in half and balance it out, there needs to be balance in the universe, and things are off balance right now. So if I balance them out and kill off, this many people, things will be beautiful.
So it was about resources.
Yeah.
I heard him say that, but then I feel like they didn't show
He makes the biggest
that.
like blatant comparison in the flashback to Gamora when she was young, and well, actually, I guess it's after that when they're in the throne room, and he's kind of trying to like explain to her what he's doing, and he says that back on her planet before she came there, it was covered in war. People were dying of hunger, and even herself, she was she wasn't even able to eat every day. And after he came, not a single person went hungry again. And so that's kind of like, I think that's just his visualization. Like that's how we're supposed to be able to, our entryway into his perspective. I mean, obviously it's still genocide.
Earth is kind of fine.
But yeah, it's like his thing is like, well, but would he solve world peace? It's kind of like I look at it as a less intellectual way of like kind of like the Dr. Manhattan Ozymandias thing. Like does he solve world peace by eliminating 50% of the planet? Like maybe. And that's kind of his point. Like
you all will thank me, the ones that are still alive. In 50, 100 years or wherever, when you're still here.
And your
that's my
planet's
doing.
flourishing and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a lot of questions with that, but I did like him thinking it was a self-sacrifice and his like final shots in his little hut alone by himself. Like I liked the direction of that idea. I'm not sure if it totally makes sense yet. Maybe we'll get more explanation later.
I wish they'd done a better job setting that up in other movies. Where they mentioned in Guardians, I think Gamora says it, like, he's always just wanted to kill everybody. And but I don't know, it's like, I don't know if I fully understood what that extent was or the reasoning behind it. But, they've been teasing Thanos for so long. I wish in the lead up to this epic monumental thing, they had just kind of set up the bad guy a little bit more, just because he was like the main character in this movie, and we knew everyone else so well. And once he started getting the stones, it was like he's got one. Like he got them all in this movie. I don't know. I was almost like surprised to see that he was able to get them all. And then,
yeah, I was kind of wondering, like, they should have given him more stones throughout this last season of the Marvel films. Like, it would have been cool if, like, other films ended with him getting stoned.
Right.
More than just, like, God, he accomplished so much in just this one movie. It could have been an interesting idea to have spread that out leading up to this movie.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Which movie is it that he, in the post-credit scenes, he puts the gauntlet on and he says, fine, I'll do it myself? Because I think, like, the timeline, as convoluted as it is, I think this movie is supposed to kind of kick off very closely after that.
I think that was Guardians 1.
Yeah, it might have been.
Guardians 2 happens, and then, and
Well,
then
Guardians
at the
2
end
is
of
only
Thor
like 2
Ragnarok.
weeks after Guardians 1 or whatever, too, though. That's why this is so convoluted. Like, they kind of mess. I don't know.
I don't know. Is it convoluted, though? I feel like all the movies just take place after the next one.
Well, they don't, though. That's the thing. That's why it's convoluted. Is that it feels like they do, but they don't really. Like, the problem is they wanted to structure it. They wanted to actually have specific dates for everything. And once they started introducing those, that's when everything got fucked up. Because, yeah, if they didn't do that, we would have just assumed they go in order. But then, like Spider-Man Homecoming's infamous for messing up the whole timeline. And, like, they've come out recently and said, yeah, that was just a mistake that made it to the final cut of the movie. Like,
Wait, what happened in Spider-Man Homecoming?
They say there's a thing that says, like, 8 years later, I think, after the opening scene. And the Russos have come out and said, oh yeah, that was supposed to be, like, in hindsight, it's actually 4 years later. We, like, somehow that made it all the way to the final cut of the movie. So it's like little things like that. And I don't know. I try not to really care too much about the specific timeline because ultimately it doesn't really affect anything unless you're trying to keep a chart. But
Yeah, I mean, I honestly haven't even looked into it at all. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry we went on this, like, weird tangent. I just was like...
I have a question for you guys. Super specific. What'd you guys think of the Hulk's Iron Man suit?
I didn't have any problem with it. I don't know. I didn't really have much of an opinion on it.
I have no opinion on that, to be honest. Like, it was just there.
Was there a reason for him not being able to become the Hulk, or, like, I was kind of wondering if, like, he didn't want to be in makeup, or
Does this have to do with what you were saying earlier, Derek, that, like, okay, so the heroes didn't have many big Hulk moments. I mean, straight up Hulk, like, got his ass kicked in the first 5 minutes and then didn't come back at all.
Yeah.
So, like, do you think the second one is going to have those moments? Like, they're not giving us, like, some awesome shit because they're like, this is the movie where awesome shit doesn't happen. The next one, like, cool stuff will happen.
Well, here's what I think this movie is. This movie is all about failures and shortcomings. Every single no matter how amazing they've been in all these movies, no matter how they've always prevailed, in this movie against this opponent, every single person came up short. Except for Iron Man, he actually did everything right, and everyone else kind of fucked everything up. But everyone fell short. No one was able to pull their weight when it came to facing, like, their biggest challenge. I think that comes with everyone. Like, Thor literally could have saved the entire movie at the very last second. And Thanos even points it out, like, you should have gone for the head. Like what the fuck are you thinking?
Even.
Yeah, like,
his
what?
arm. If he had just cut off his arm, he could have, like, they'd have the gauntlet, run off.
I don't know. And that is really cool to me. Like, that gives me so much respect for this movie that they were willing to do that. With these characters, they've worked so hard to prove how good, how noble, and how strategic and just smart they've become over all these movies. They were not ready for this kind of failure. And as soon as it starts happening, they are completely unable to recover. None of them are able to make it work. And, like, that is really fascinating to me. And that makes me like the movie more. Is that every time that this should have happened, it didn't. And they failed. Like, they came up short. Like, the big set piece that I remember from this movie, and I think it's the coolest looking one, is on Titan when the Guardians, Iron Man, and Spider-Man are all fighting Thanos, and they almost beat him. Literally, they have the gauntlet is on his fingertips.
Right.
And Star-Lord just can't get over himself and fucks everything up. And like that is so cool to me. Like that gives me chills just thinking about it. Like that they're willing to like say that like these characters they've been crafting, their flaws can destroy the universe. Like they can be bigger villains just by not being able to cope with like things that are happening. I don't know, like to me that makes this movie so worth it. Just being able to go through an experience like that. And we're probably never going to get a movie like that ever again. Like, because how do you sell a movie that's all about your heroes not being able to be heroic and then ending the movie with that? Like, all of your heroes failed and none of them could get the job done. Goodbye. Like, I don't know. That's a once in a lifetime kind of ending.
A lot of this is reminding me of like Star Wars Last Jedi. You know, that's kind of what Star Wars Last Jedi was about, was how everyone failed. It was kind of the same way, except even that one ended on a little more hope. Like this one was dark. Thanos won, and immediately he achieved his goal, and he executed his goal of killing half the people. And we got to see like half of our heroes just disappear and like turn to dust and fade away. And I mean, it was very visually kind of stunning and surreal to see all of that.
Yeah.
It was the best part of the movie. It was like you could tell the director sat back and thought so hard how to show you each and every one of those deaths. And it was actually moving. Maybe it's just because it's so wild and crazy, but I wish they were able to put that much specific creativity in a lot of the earlier like moments of the film. But that ending was so incredible. Spider-Man falling on Tony Stark's shoulder.
It was pretty upsetting to watch.
Yeah, I like started tearing up a little bit.
I agree with you, Brandon. That was like, it was very visually like, you know, amazing. I'm just like, I'm a part of me is stuck a little bit in like I got drawn out of that moment because I knew all of them weren't really going to be dead. You know, I felt like, you know, they did this switcheroo where, you know, going into the movie, I had like so many conversations about who's going to die. Is it going to be Iron Man or is it going to be Captain America? It's, you know, one of those two, obviously. And they almost gave us the moment where Captain America died, or where Iron Man died. And I thought they actually foreshadowed it earlier in the movie, like when Tony first came on the ship and he was out of Earth's atmosphere and he talked to Pepper on the phone and she was like, "You better come back. Like, get off that ship, come back to Earth right now." And it was like really emotional and she was angry and you could hear it in her voice, and he just like turned it off. And I teared up during that part. I thought that was like that like Tony Stark just like left her.
Yeah. There was more distress in her voice in that scene than like most any other place in the film.
And then like at the end of the movie, you know, Iron Man has his like one-on-one fight with Thanos, and he throws everything at him and he punches him in the face. And Thanos just like laughs at him. It's like the most brilliant like heel thing where he just like has like some blood on his face. He's like, "All of that for just one shot," you know, or whatever he says.
He's like, just a scratch.
Yeah. And then he just beats the shit out of Iron Man, and he like almost kills him. And like I felt like everyone around me was like, "This is it. Like, they're gonna kill off Iron Man right here."
I definitely knew he was dying right there.
Right, like I was like everyone around me is preparing for this. Like this is, I was like, I'm not ready for this. This is fucked up. Like, no shit. Like if like I felt like it was like when Han Solo died. You know, it was like, this is happening. Like, oh my god. And then they didn't kill him. You know, they stopped and they switched it. They like it was a red herring. You know, and so instead of Iron Man dying, you know, everyone else died, you know, like Black Panther, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. And these are all people, though, that we know are going to have another movie, which is like fine. And like, of course, we all know that like that ending isn't permanent. Like, I'm not even like, it's not even dumb for us to be like thinking it, but it is like a symptom of like, that death wasn't, all those people dying wasn't as emotional as if Iron Man had died. If Iron Man had died, that would have been like a real moment that we fully believed in, you know, like when other people died earlier in the movie. But this was like,
I feel that moment's still coming. and that this is like we're getting an Avengers in a year from now. Like only 2 Marvel movies in the future, we'll be seeing the sequel to this Avengers.
Right.
And I feel like we're going to get that big death still. And this momentary death is just more of like one of the biggest hurdles we've ever seen.
And it's like a big plot point.
Well, also, like, that would have been kind of a letdown, I think, for Iron Man's story. Like, it would have just been like he was right the whole time and he died for it. I hope, like, we can get a fully rounded, like, conclusion to this whole, like, Tony Stark story that's been happening over all of these movies. We've had this big evolution, and he had this vision of the end game, you know, in Avengers Age of Ultron. And now, like, he was right. Like, all of this, everything he's been worried about, all these times he's been trying to protect the planet from what he doesn't even know, like, just something that's coming. He was right the whole time. And it finally came, and they still couldn't do it. As much, as often as he was correct, and as much as he put everything, his life, all of his relationships on the line, they still could not do it. And everybody died because of it. And he was left there alone. I think it's just him and Star-Lord, right? I think that's it. Everybody else faded away. And now he's just
No, Star-Lord's gone.
Star-Lord faded away too? So is he by himself completely?
Oh, yeah. The only Guardians of the Galaxy that's alive is Rocket.
Okay, so Tony was left on Titan by himself?
I think there was someone up there with him.
Not a Guardian.
Well, it was only him and the Guardians. It was the only people there. And Spider-Man. And Doctor
Spider-Man
Strange.
died.
But they both
Doctor
went away.
Strange.
Yeah, so he's alone.
So that's even, like, more freaking heartbreaking. Like, as far as he knows, everyone died. And he was left alone in his, like, failure on this planet. Who knows how far away from Earth. He doesn't even know what's going on. Like,
Is he with the girl?
Oh, no. Nebula. She's alive still. She was left standing there with him. That's right.
Right, yes.
Yeah, I like everything you're saying. And like I feel like maybe I'm just still in just like I might just be in the moment still of being like worked.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like this movie was just a downer on like every way, and I'm just sitting here being like, well, what happened to like, you know, cool stuff, you know? And I'm definitely gonna see it again, and I hope that like it gets bumped up a lot, because you know everything you're saying is like, you know, if the next one has the same quality except things are going better for the guys, you know, it'll be like such a beautiful story. It'll be so great to see it all come together again. But
You know who got a short end of the stick? Vision.
Oh, yeah.
He got stabbed in the chest so many times.
He
and
had
then he
no
just was
chance.
like hurt the whole movie.
Yeah, but hurt on different occasions the whole movie. Like as soon as he was like ready to fight again, the first thing that happened to him was he just got stabbed in the chest.
Yeah, that guy had no chance throughout the whole movie. It's just like, just constantly limping along, trying to survive.
Yeah.
Just to kind of geek out on like the story, like the big story and plot, I think is really cool. Like I loved the Doctor Strange stuff is probably the most important for like trying to guess what's going to happen in the next movie. But
Right.
he's like
He let it happen.
He let it happen. We know a couple of things. We know that of like the whatever millions of scenarios that he ran, there's only one scenario in which they were able to defeat Thanos. And he doesn't say that they're going to win and everyone's going to live. He says there's only one scenario in which we can stop Thanos and kill Thanos. You know, doesn't necessarily mean we're going to see everything undone. But there's one scenario, and the scenario is Thanos has to win this fight, right? And he has to kill everybody. Like, what's really interesting to me in that means that we're probably going to get, like, in the next movie, there's probably going to be some time, like, that's just in the wake of Thanos killing everybody. We have no idea what's going to happen, like, because we don't even know the extent of Doctor Strange's abilities or what other realms may exist that people could have been sent to or whatever. But I know Christina actually brought up something to me that I didn't even notice, But the Red Skull, when Thanos goes to get the Soul Stone,
Yeah, he's from the first Captain America.
yeah. But he warns Thanos. He's like, all this that you're doing, like it's not going to have the outcome that you think it will. All this sacrifice, everything you're putting yourself through, you're not going to be satisfied with the result. And I think that is a foreshadowing to what Thanos thinks is actually happening when he gladly annihilates 50% of the universe.
Well, and no one just like sits in their cabin, at the end of the day and just is like, oh well, I'm done for life.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing. Like, they still have to fight Thanos again. Like, it's not. I don't know. Like, I don't think they're over the big hump yet. They think like Thanos is still more stronger than he's been when they couldn't fight him. So now the big question is going to be like, how are the new additions going to help? Like bringing in Captain Marvel, and how are they going to outsmart him? Like, what are they going to be able to do to actually defeat this guy? And I think that's where we're probably going to get the more permanent deaths. Overall, I really, really like the movie. I think it's really cool that there's so much to talk about and unpack. And I think the parts that I'm dissatisfied with were Captain America didn't really have much to do in the movie, which is kind of a shame because he's such a big, important part of their universe.
And also the Russos are really good directing Captain America. Like,
Yeah.
right, I remember right when he showed up, everyone cheered, and then he had an awesome fight. And I was like, they get him. Like, they get Captain America. They know what works with him.
Yeah. But then he kind of had to... I mean, I think he kind of... Just the story lends itself to the bigger characters that are able to leave the planet and like do all the big spectacular things. So it kind of makes sense that he didn't really have a huge role in this. I mean, it was pretty cool to see him like be able to hold back Thanos' punch for a little bit. But other than that,
So I do have one like big complaint that I want to bring up. It's pretty specific to this film. I was pretty curious at like how bad of a job they did at the set design on a lot of the locations of this movie. Like almost all of it. It kind of started reminding me of like Batman vs Superman and Zack Snyder movies. Like a lot of it was just gray, destroyed background in space. From Peter Dinklage's planet to the like spaceship that Iron Man and Spider-Man were on, to Thanos's planet, to even the planet with the like red face guy, and even the planet with the like toy maker or collector. Like all those are just the exact same in my head. There's almost no distinguishing features, and it was just like all ruins and fire and like gray rubble. And it kind of like started to my head getting really monotonous. And I'm so like shocked that they didn't. Like it was only New York and Wakanda that had actual differences in color and interesting like locations.
I mean, they were all of those locations, like the plot kind of lends itself to them being in the wake of Thanos' destruction the whole time too. Like I mean, the only way to not have that would have been to change that, how the story unfolds, which would be they'd have to be in front of him destroying everything. Right?
That is true. He did just like ravish everywhere he went.
Like he just blows the shit to everything he goes to. I mean, or change how his character like attacks and stuff. I don't know. Like I do get what you mean. That everything was kind of desolate. I mean, the planet with the Red Skull. I think that was they go there.
That was
they go there
coolest.
in Thor: The Dark World too. That's where Loki dies in Thor: The Dark World. Mm-hmm. So that was like a pre-established kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't. That didn't really get to me too much. I liked all the Peter Dinklage stuff. I thought that was a cool.
No idea who he is. Have we seen him before?
No, he was introduced this movie.
Oh, okay, good.
But
okay.
we just know, all we know is that he makes like the weapons of the gods. Like,
Right.
that was an interesting way to at least start to bring Thor's his character arc to a close.
That was such a comic booky scene with how they like started
Yeah.
like jump starting the planet or the star.
Yeah.
That was super comic booky.
Cool. Well, I think we should kind of wrap this up, guys.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see it again. I just want to say that, like, I definitely, I'm gonna go see it again, and I hope I like it more. It was just weird to me seeing how this doesn't always happen to me where everyone is like loving something, and I'm kind of like, I don't know, it didn't make me feel good. So,
Just really quickly, where would you toss it in like the?
well, I mean, it'd be in the top 10,
Okay.
but like it'd be above Age of Ultron, far underneath Civil War, though.
For once, I liked a Marvel film more than Nick.
Whoa.
I know this is really that's what I mean. Like, that's why this is so weird. So,
Shocking.
but yeah, I'm gonna see it again, and hopefully I'll, knowing what's gonna happen, I'll be able to like, have a bigger scale and appreciate what it's doing. Try to see the long view.
Yeah.
But that was Avengers: Infinity War. That just came out.
Perfect.
Okay. Cool. So, real quick, we're going to talk about some of the movies that are coming out in May that we're pretty excited about. Brandon, what's our first one?
So I'm pretty excited about this film, Tully, which is starring Charlize Theron. Apparently, she like gained a bunch of weight for this role, and it's been getting really strong buzz. It comes out May 4th, next week, and I'm excited to see it.
It's a reteaming of Ivan Reitman and Diablo Cody too.
Oh, that's basically the team that brought you Juno. Like, the Ivan Reitman directed Juno, and she wrote it. Juno.
Oh, really? Nice. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, they're saying this is the trilogy. Juno, and then Young Adult, and now Tully.
Oh, that kind of makes sense actually. I haven't seen Young Adult, but
Why did you guys give me Life of the Party? I don't know. I don't even like Melissa McCarthy at all. Like, I'm
No
like
one
the
does.
furthest
You got it.
person.
Nobody does.
you got it.
You got it.
So
Nick.
another
Go
movie
for
that's
it.
coming out in May is Life of the Party, which comes out May 11th. It's the new Melissa McCarthy movie. So if you're into Melissa McCarthy, you should see it. I don't know. I don't really like I don't know why you guys gave this one to me. I don't.
I have
want
a
to see
little.
this at all.
I got a little fun fact nugget. Her and her husband wrote that movie, The Boss, and then her husband directed it. And now this is their second movie that they both wrote together, and he's directing too.
Oh, I didn't see The Boss, but I didn't really want to either. So
Yeah. All right.
I'm gonna switch this over here.
So another movie that I think already came out in New York here, April 27th, is called Disobedience. The trailer for this movie looks fucking crazy. Rachel Weisz will probably get an Oscar for this role. Some weird like acidic Jewish lesbian film, and I don't know if you guys heard about it, but it's getting great reviews.
I think I saw the trailer.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this movie. The acting for this movie is getting like tremendous buzz, and I'm a big fan of both of those ladies. So, I'm really excited about it.
Who's the other?
The Rachels.
Yeah, it's Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams.
Oh, Rachel McAdams. Okay.
Derek, what's the next movie you're excited about?
Deadpool 2 comes out pretty soon, May 18th. This one's actually directed by David Leitch, who was basically the uncredited co-director of the John Wick movies, and I think he directed what was that? Charlie's Atomic Blonde, and now he has this movie. He's really, really awesome at action, so there's no reason that Deadpool 2 shouldn't be super exciting. And I'm really excited to see the new addition of Peter to their team and see how it goes.
I just saw the trailer for this for the first time, and it looks really funny.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for Deadpool 2 now, all of a sudden.
The image of that Peter guy skydiving with the team is so
I didn't
freaking
get it
funny.
until I just saw that trailer, Derek.
It's so
and it ends
funny.
with him getting accepted onto their team. Oh, it's going to be hilarious.
So, Brandon, what's the next movie we're excited about?
Solo, Star Wars. Do you want to do it, Nick?
I just was like,
Now I'm thrown off.
Well, you gave me Life of the Party, and then you took like 3 movies, and it was like I could talk about a Star Wars story. You know, it's a Star Wars story is coming out May 25th, Memorial Day weekend, and it's directed by Ron Howard, but it was Lord and Miller before that, so you know it's one of these movies where we're not really sure how great it's going to be considering the directing switch, but it is Disney and it's Star Wars, so I don't know. It's coming out May 25th. Are you guys excited about Star Wars or Solo?
Yeah, the new trailer's pretty interesting. Like, it looks like a really solidly directed, well-crafted movie. The lead sounds great, and I'm excited to hear how much he develops with Chewie, because like the trailer really focuses on that.
Yeah. I'm excited for it. I think like they better pray that it works without Lord and Miller, because they're like beloved in the industry, and everyone was really excited for them to be directing this movie, and the fact that they're not, now it's like, now it also has that like burden to bury, and hopefully Ron Howard's competent. I don't think there's any reason why this movie shouldn't be great, but
I think that's the most you can. I think that's like the most specific thing you can say about Ron Howard. Ron Howard is competent.
Yeah, he knows how to make movies. He
does.
So that's good.
He's made a few too.
Yeah. I do. It does make me. I like that they're not using the Star Wars theme in the trailer. Like, that makes it feel like its own thing, and I think it needs to be. So that's a good sign.
Right. I said this during our summer movie wager episode, but I think so much of it like depends on if people are able to buy in as someone else other than Harrison Ford as Han Solo.
Yeah. I haven't seen the whole movie, but I saw was it Hail Caesar?
Yeah.
And that guy's in it? And someone at work was like showing me a scene with him in it that was so freaking funny. I couldn't stop laughing. And so I think he's definitely got like the chops to be a witty Han Solo character. But yeah, it's just hopefully it just looks right. Yeah.
Yeah. He is great in Hail Caesar. Do you remember what scene it was?
It was Ray Fiennes is like directing him, and he's like,
"Oh my gosh!"
Right, the slapping scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? Do you remember what that line is that he like makes him say a bunch of times?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I have to look.
Sorry, this is a tangent that we don't need to be on.
Yeah.
But anyway, speaking of our summer movie wager episode, you should go back and listen to that to keep up on what movies are coming out this summer and how much money we think they're going to make. I think with that, though, we can wrap up this podcast. Derek, where can people find you online?
Twitter, Letterboxd, and Mixer at Chicken Tack.
Brandon, what about you?
You can find me on Letterboxd at Beb, and you can find me on Instagram, Brandon_Bolby.
Cool. And I'm on Letterboxd and Twitter as well at Mothman23. So, keep up with us on those places. And unless you guys have anything else, we could say goodbye. Well, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Now as far as I can tell, you're just drinking your pee now.